Hello, my name is Mike Jones, and tonight I'm presenting my literature equity analysis. I was tasked with reading eight children's literature books, and I found various themes within these books. Themes that I have found includes representation, inclusion, the achievement of women of color throughout various struggles, unity amid daunting situations such as slavery, ugly backlash due to racism and oppression, a sense of belonging no matter where you are and what you look like, the power of education. These books tackle and cover several stereotypes and authenticity as well. The eight books that I read were Free to Learn by Thomas S. Owens, Unspeakable, The Tulsa Race Massacre by Caroline Boston Weatherford, um, Mariama, Different but Just the Same by Geronimo Cornelius and Navala Yuva. Can I Touch Your Hair? Poems of Race, Mistakes, and Friendship by Irene Latham and Charles Waters. We Belong by Laura Purdy Salas. Separate is Never Equal by Duncan Tunatu. And I do apologize if I'm pronouncing these authors' names wrong. I do apologize for that. Patsy Mink by David Del Rocco. And For the Right to Read, The Malala Yousafzai Story by Rebecca Langston George. The first book that I want to talk about is Free to Learn. Free to Learn is about this woman named Ms. Blackwell. She had the Dame School within her house. Teachers who taught at Dame School, they allowed children from the community to be taught within their homes. She is approached by a black farmer named Ben. Ben is a free man, and he is striving to learn how to read and write. But because this is still during slavery, black people were not allowed to read and write. And a very prominent quote that was said within this book was from the mayor of this town. It says, "When you teach Negroes how to read and write, you arm them with a powerful weapon. And what is that powerful weapon? Knowledge and education." And that's something that the oppressors, as white people, did not want black people to have access to, which was education. This unfortunately causes Ben to go away, but the teachings that he did learn from Miss Blackwell, he was able to move his family and his wife. Him and his wife ultimately became teachers themselves. So what this book shows is how unity is so powerful, and the power of education is so prevalent amid a situation such as slavery. Unspeakable, the Tulsa Race Massacre. This book is about the Greenwood community in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Greenwood was a prominent African American community in the early 1900s in Tulsa. This community had over 200 successful businesses, had several libraries, hospitals, beauty salons, barbershops, had a hospital. The hospital had over 15 doctors, and they had their own separate school system. Booker T. Washington, the famous black educator, called this town the Black Wall Street, or as he's called it, the Negro Wall Street of America. An unfortunate event happened in 1921. A 19-year-old black man by the name of Dick Rowland. He was accused of sexually assaulting a 17-year-old white girl by the name of Sarah Page. This invoked an outrage from the white citizens of Tulsa, and the white mob ultimately destroyed the community of Greenwood. Unfortunately, over 300 people were killed, and over 8,000 people were displaced. Um, the book Mariama is a young African girl who moves to America to receive a better life. She faces a lot of difficulties during her first days of school, such as language barriers, being the only black kid in class, and just learning how to eat new foods and things like that. But her mom encourages her, and also her friends Hugo and Paula, who she meets, they encourage her to open up and she is able to express, a sense of who she is and where she comes from. And she's able to share those same experiences with her new friends. This book basically talks about, the message of this book is it doesn't matter where you're from, as long as you meet kind-hearted people, you'll be able to fit in. And this was a beautiful book displaying friendship. We Belong is also another book, which encourages children from all over the world, just to be proud of who you are. It doesn't matter what shade you are, whether you're black, whether you're white, Hispanic, Asian, it doesn't matter. Um, you are accepted into this world. This book encourages children to, be proud of who they are, regardless of the circumstances that they face. This book promotes positivity in terms of how children can come together and learn from each other, and how they can make this world a better place. So, unity and positivity and just uplifting children are prevalent things within this book. Separate is never equal. Now, this is a story about Sylvia Mendez's family. Um, and their quest to make sure that all people were able to receive a proper education in the state of California. Now, this story is important because it happened 10 years prior to the memorable Brown versus Board of Education case in 1954. Sylvia is a young Mexican American girl. She is unfairly treated immediately as she starts her new school. She faces racism. She's being told to go back to the Mexican school. The Mexican school, it doesn't have the same amenities as the white school, and is a lot of poor Mexican American families. They were forced to go into these schools because of the color of their skin, and there was a lot of racism that was um, it was invoked in this story as well. The superintendent, he talks about how, because Mexican people have lice in their hair, they have dirty body parts and things like that. They just have a lack of outlook economically and things like that. They are completely inferior to white folks. Um, Sylvia's dad, he fights against this. He takes this to court, and eventually, a year later, the court rules in favor of the Mendez family. And in the state of California, all people were allowed to attend schools and receive an equal education, no matter their skin tone, no matter where they come from. Patsy Mink. She was one of the most prominent political figures of her time. She was the first Japanese American woman to be elected Congress and to practice law. I'm sorry, in the state of Hawaii. Her most prominent work involves Title IX. Title IX is a law that keeps businesses and companies from discriminating against people based on their gender. During this time, women were not afforded the right to have an equal opportunity in higher education as men, um, and just in the workforce in general, and even in playing sports, the same sports as men. Women weren't granted those rights. Title IX helped such. So because of Patsy Mink, she was able to get Title IX in the forefront, and in 1972, Title IX became official law in Congress. Malala Yousafzai, she is the youngest person to ever receive a Nobel Peace Prize. This is because of her activism that she had in her native Pakistan, as a young woman. During the time in the early 2010s, the Taliban they were in control of Pakistan. And one of the biggest things that they enforced was that girls and women were not allowed to receive an education. Malala, she fought against that. She even created a pen name, an alias, and was able to reach international media streams to get her story across and to talk about the injustices that women were facing in Pakistan by not being able to receive a proper education. Um, Unfortunately, she was attacked by the Taliban, and the Taliban wound up shooting her and nearly killing her. I'm sorry, but she was able to survive that. And like I stated, she became the youngest person ever to receive the Nobel Peace Prize for her activism in education. And the last book that I want to talk about is Can I Touch Your Hair? This is about two kids, Irene, white girl, Charles, a black boy. They go to the same school, but they have totally different racial experiences. Charles, he faces various stereotypes, like, oh, for example, he because he's black, he was picked to play basketball first. But then the other kids realized he's not good at basketball, so they wound up not picking him in basketball. He also faced stereotypes as to why are you sounding white, or why are you always getting straight A's and stuff, as if black people aren't allowed to speak with a proper dialect. That black people aren't allowed to be smart in school. So he had to face those things. And Irene, she's just trying to figure out herself as just a young white girl and just in this story, in this society and where she fits in, and she's trying to make friends with people outside of her race, but she's having a hard time and she's not understanding why. So you have two kids here who was in a racially divided you know, school trying to figure themselves out and trying to find their niche. But because they were placed together on this project, they eventually realized, hey, even though I'm black and I'm white, we got similar interests. Both are vegan, both like horseback riding, both realized that they're not good in sports. Both had interest in fine arts. So they were able to come together amid being in a racially divided school and not only get this project done, but become good friends. In conclusion, these books are great. I believe are great for children. They learn about kindness. They learn about what people have gone through in order to obtain equal education. They even learn about some tragedies, such as like the Greenwood massacre. And kids must know these things because not everything is glitz and glamour. Not everything is hip hip hooray. There's some ugly truths that are in this country that our kids must know about and they must learn about. And hopefully, by the time they're adults, they can all come together and work towards making this world a better place and making our country a better place. So once again, thank you all for taking your time to looking at this PowerPoint, this presentation. My name is Mike Jones. You all have a great night.